Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Ruba Elmelik. I'm the Literary Program Manager at Mizna, and I'm very, very, very happy to be MCing for you here tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out here. We're so excited to present you with tonight's program. And I'd just like to quickly thank the venue, as well as the Northwest Film Forum, for having us in this very, very lovely space, or spaces, actually, because we have a little thing going on. More on that later, but I hope you're ready to dance. Oh, okay, or more on that now, but that's nice. So I just want to acknowledge Mizna's funders and give a huge thanks to them for helping make this special project possible. So we have the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, the City of St. Paul's Cultural Star Program, and the Minnesota Humanities Council. So we're repping our hometown here today. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Mizna, we're a SWANA arts organization based in Minnesota. We are based on the ancestral homelands of the Dakota and the Ojibwe. And here in Seattle, we are on Duwamish land. We acknowledge that our practices participate in the settler colonial project that is the United States. One of our flagship projects at Mizna is publishing an Art Plus Lit program called, an Art Plus Lit journal called Mizna, named after the org. You will probably find copies of this outside today. This is, the Black Swan issue is one such issue of this journal. It's really my pride and joy, and the pride and joy like so many people here in this room today. We've been working on it for, officially a year, but more like 2. We have a really special element to this project, or to this issue, which is our takeover team. So it was put together by an all-Black SWANA team of incredible people. So come much appreciated. Now I'm gonna do this because that's also a moment in concerts. I'm never leaving, like nobody's gonna read tonight. But yeah, so I just wanted to thank all of you for being here today. For our takeover team, thank you so much for putting together this issue. Mizna, Lena Barkawi, our executive director and artistic director. I really appreciate all of you being here today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Romaissaa. Romaissaa, I'm going to introduce you off the cuff. Romaissaa is probably one of the most incredible people that I've ever met, but she's also a writer and an editor who's published a lot of work in Mizna and McSweeney's and various other publications. And she's published something with us today in the Black Swan issue, as well as was our associate editor for the issue itself. So she's really been an integral part of this entire process, and we'll be reading for you today. So please come on up, Romaissaa.
It's showtime, the man says with a smile. The train doors close and the Uptown A lurches towards the city again. New Yorkers prepare their steeliest disregard as the man walks to the middle of the car. But what follows isn't showtime in the traditional sense. There is no dance, no acrobatic style infused with the swagger of hip-hop and the divinity of pole. Instead, a poem, or maybe a speech. Like showtime in the traditional sense, the performance defies genre. It is the scathing condemnation of racism and racial violence, delivered loudly and angrily. The man lists off names including Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, and Sandra Bland. He insists that Sandra Bland did not die from suicide, implying that it was the work of the carceral state. He captures feelings that already charge the air these days, fear and suspicion, weariness and pain, and the audience is grateful for it. The audience, like the man, is angry. There has been a lot to be angry about. Tyree Nichols has topped an ever-growing list of Black people that have been killed by the police. Black people across New York City and around the country are being priced out of their homes in droves. Politicians have cracked down on critical race theory, perhaps in an attempt to crack down on the critical thinking that can help us connect the dots. Because what happens when you start to understand race as a condition and not just a color? What happens when you come to understand the world as racialized down to the very last objective science, a la Sylvia Wynter? When you start getting angry, where does the rage go? In her latest single, a stunning homage to the gospel tradition, R&B singer Chloe tells us to pray it away. The song is about romantic rejection, but also the tempering of anger. Although Chloe wants him to hurt, she decides to, quote, pray it away. Any casualty of love can relate, but so can any victim of injustice. The song's refrain is familiar to anyone who has ever been told to control their emotions, to suck it up, keep it pushing, be an adult about it, etc. After all, why get worked up over forces that seem as fixed as church pews? Over the course of Pray It Away, Chloe's voice becomes another acceptable vector for her rage, a rage that trills up and down musical scales, climbing to unimaginable heights. Near the end of the song, Chloe warns us that her tremendous self-restraint is subject to change. No, I'm not perfect, I'm overdramatic. I feel what I feel, so my actions may vary. I've been playing the song on repeat these days. Perhaps I am in some pursuit of solace. There has been a lot to be angry about in my personal life too. I've been belittled and disregarded by employers. I have been paid less than equally qualified peers. My time has been consistently disrespected. My voice as a writer has been rejected for whiter ones saying less interesting things because they have been deemed more legitimate or have bigger Instagram followings. My suffering has been met at every turn with the blind promise of meritocracy. Shush now, things are working as they should. I have been made to fight like a dog and then told to be grateful to be in the pit. I have struggled to maintain affordable housing, a basic human right in my native city. I have fought management companies for basic amenities like heat and gas to varying levels of success. I have kept the score in silence with my hair pulled back. I have tried to pray it away. In her 1996 book, Killing Rage, Ending Racism, theorist Bell Hooks opens up with a microaggression. She tells us a story in which airline workers disrespect her and the Black women she is traveling with, prioritizing the needs of a white male traveler. In the heat of the moment, she feels a killing rage towards the white man in question, and the rest of the volume works to unpack the fierce, quote, the fierce anger of Black people stung by repeated instances of everyday racism. The Hooks lends legitimacy to the inextricable ties between the personal and the systemic, reminding us that the two often reinforce each other. The microaggressions that we are so often told not to read into are usually tied to the larger, more material systems that work to oppress us, whether the perpetrators of these microaggressions mean it or not. Bell Hooks contributes to a rich canon of work that addresses the rage of Black people, and so does The Man on the Subway. Black psychologists William H. Greer and Price M. Cobbs used the term Black rage in the 60s to describe the rage that Black people have developed in response to decades of oppression. There has long been debate about the utility or futility of Black rage, the revolutionary capacities that it does or does not hold, the way that one should or should not channel it. In her personal diaries to Audre Lorde, poet Pat Parker wrote about the toll that rage has taken on her body, at one point linking it to the cancer that eventually killed her. James Baldwin has infamously said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all of the time. Thinkers like Maya Angelou, Audre Lorde, and the aforementioned Bell Hooks have defended the great liberatory capacities of rage. In their work, they emphasize that rage can serve as a catalyst for action. They remind us that we should be angry, even if it comes at a great personal cost. The train lurches into J Street Metrotech. The train doors open. Briefly, there is the suggestion of something new. Sylvia Wynter wrote extensively about the need to construct a new humanity, and I'm lost in a vision of what that might look like, of what that might entail. The Man on the Subway is still going, still rhyming. He introduces himself as Timothy and finishes his performance to a smattering of applause. Almost everyone in the train car has been captivated by his performance, a very rare outcome for Showtime. Like me, Timothy is surprised by the response. God sent me to the world to do this, he says, shaking his head. All right. That was it. Trapped. When 5 Deutsche Mark emerged from the depth of Mama's pocket, I, the child on tippy toes, palms pressed to the glass, am convinced this fish will be our first family pet. I will not have this shimmering beauty decapitated. She who comes to me gutless in a brown paper bag. On the walk home, Mama and I are taken by the Nile's scattered memory and wanting to give the fish a last encounter with water. I stand atop a stool, fill the kitchen sink, and play for hours, elbows deep in the blood that seeps from my friend's abdomen in my makeshift Nile, where the light catches on an enjambment of scales. The fish, I tell Mama, is not ready to eat. Like us, she is almost remembering how to cross back into life. This piece is called The Glass and He Reigned, and this is for our dear, dear friend Sharif. Ashrofi, we love you. And there's multiple ways to read this visually on the page, so I'm just going to read it 2 of the ways, but there's like at least 3 or 4 ways to read this. The police report states, shortly before 7:30 a.m., the youth climbed all 16 flights, and his wings spread wide. He jumped. The wrinkled woman on the first floor was plucked from a beige dream by wailing. The old woman dialed the police to say, the police report states immediate death, heart petrified upon first kiss of cranium against the asphalt's chapped lips, unleashed his flesh from his skeleton, his teeth and blood lukewarm. The police verdict is suicide. The police report states your mother's throat resembles the desert shortly before 7:30 a.m. when she makes the 8th international call and hollers, Nazis chase Sharif on his way to school. The youth climbed into a building, up the stairs, all 16 flights, and his wings pushed him through a closed window spread wide. He jumped, the glass and he reigned. The wrinkled woman on the first floor was plucked from a beige dream by my boy, wailing, fell 16 flights and still breathing, heaving. He could have lived, but the old woman dialed the police to say they ran him over with a car. As such, the police report states immediate death, heart petrified upon first kiss of mingos and fakes, rotting the sea within your cranium against your mother's floods, uprooting wounds from the sky's glistening injury, scarlet snow and my boy's scalp braided with tire marks. I identified him by his shoes. You are 9 feet underground. Your mother, 9 feet underwater, drains the bedroom a bucket each dawn. Nazis chased Sharif on his way to school into a building, up the stairs, pushed him through a closed window, the glass, and he reigned. My boy fell 16 flights and still breathing, heaving, he could have lived, but they ran him over with a car. Scarlet snow and my boy's scalp braided with tire marks. I identified him by his shoes.
And that one is heavy, so maybe we can just take like a collective breath. I'm gonna move into a lighter kind of direction, and it's always beautiful to call our beloveds who are not with us. So I'm grateful for being able to call Sharif's very beautiful spirit. This piece is from a longer piece that you will find at the very end of the Mizna anthology. And this piece is about consciousness exploration. I'm really like an explorer of consciousness, a nomad of the light. So here we go. Circling the villa barefoot, the violet darkness is a balm. The moon is a jeweler who spins starshine to white hair, threads the planets like beads, ties them to my feet. Stuttering beneath the spell, I am a labyrinth of light. I am the wind's endless dance, drumming the earth. All flesh is an instrument of transmission. The treetops keep the unfolding record of everything. This footwork of round, sweeping wing strokes. To bewilder the jeweler, I warp to jazz. I dance for the stars and bow without bending the splinter of light at the center of each being. Trembling, my love is a cornea suspended in the hammock's eyelid, journeying to the borderlands of consciousness, together and apart. Almost anything can be made into a drum, just ask the rain. If true love asks for nothing, I am with God when the birthday boy leaves his hammock to hold me in his emerald arms. The white hairs peel off our scalps to meet each other. We pluck ourselves from our human forms and go. And part of the same longer kind of piece. I awake with an ancient itch to touch the sea, to climb into the hem of her eternal skirt and pretend that life has not yet begun. I am a transparent waiting room. My soul is made of tiny, tiny bells. Before form, the waiting room has no doors, no exterior, no interior. The bells orbit a single unit of sound. We astonish the stars. The stars are conscious that we are overdue. Our species missed the mark. We didn't wake up in time. We're late for a revolution in consciousness. The stars speak telepathically, empathetically. Yes, it's difficult to imagine awakening, to peel ourselves from the waking sleep of the dominant now, to dissolve the field of collective disbelief. Despite intricate human-made systems of suffering, we are ready. The smallest revolutionary unit is the self. We aerate ourselves to oxygenate our collective Our collective reserves. We intentionally invigorate everything. Communities, imaginations, critiques, tools, our bodies, our instincts, our emotional intelligence. Our capacity to care is revolutionary. We are leaping. We remember. We make it up as we go. We arrive together and in the care of one another. our imaginations will heal. The flow of collective consciousness will heal. The imaginary world of individuality will cease to exist. We who never were singular will outgrow identifying with flesh-draped bones. This universe is our flesh. This planet is a musical body. We're out here spinning instruments of our higher beings. Well, I have two little things I can read from. This one is from an essay that was published last month in a collection, in an anthology edited by Adesalis Gourmet.
Woo.
Yeah, who's amazing, and is also a Cave Canem Fellow.
Woo.
And it's kind of a historical piece about this girl, Alice, who was enslaved in Philadelphia in 1787, and it's a kind of love letter. So I'll just read you a little bit, and I'll read this because someone very close to me just lost their baby, actually, 2 weeks ago. So I'll read just a little piece of this. If the sound of sanctuary from this world is the spirit world thawing within me, then why do I outwake the morning, aching to name you without having to name you? You who are permanent residents of my interior, the lawless island where nothing is prey, where I go to shed the sunset robe of my sorrow and spread my skin, where my breasts are stargazers done guarding the citadel of a body I lay no claim to. Hollowed of matter, the inside world is engorged. I, the inside, am boundless and touch the outside only through the membrane of my interior, that nameless crossroad where we assemble to marvel as the untethered hand of the afterlife pares away our many husks. Beneath each pilfered flesh, a horizon, and beneath that, a stone heavy as a wet star, a light pilgrimaging the cosmos anonymously, untouched and touching nothing. Newly husked, I discover I am not my mother's daughter. Unmasked are children, born and unborn are not our children. They are stepping stones of the divine unruly. Despite the heart's insistence, loss is not loss. You sleep, I wake, you flock, we grow. Yesterdays unburied are embalmed in a language wearing the emerald dress of a coffin. This is all I know to do, to build from flesh and discourse an altar at the open entry of my heart, to crown you the open sky through which every leg of light must wade before resting its tired feet. And this is the end of the essay, and I end it with two epigraphs that I would like to read. The first one, the presence among us of the unfenced is. Does anybody know who that is a line by? Okay, that is Lucia Clifton. Woo! Yes. The presence among us of the unfenced is. I love that. It says so much in so little. Okay, and another one. Breaking hard against things, turning to burning reason, This is you, girl. This is the poem no woman ever write for a woman, 'cause she's afraid to touch this river, boiling like a woman in she sleep. Does anybody know who that's by? No? Okay. I'll tell you. That is Dion Brand. Yeah, that is in No Language is Neutral. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Wow, what a beautiful bunch. Thank you so much for coming. It's an honor. I worked on the Mizna SWANA Takeover issue as the content editor, and I got to meet the most beautifully talented group of people in this team. And honestly, I just want to give it up to the Takeover team because it was an incredible experience for me, especially coming from a more, let's face it, very homogenous type of media world, and to come into this artistic creative space and get to work with so many people that just saw me right away. And they're like, that's Samah. And they said my name right. They said Samah. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So yes, thank you again for being here. I would like to share 2 poems. They are actually in the issue, so if you do have the issue, you can kind of read along. Page 66. The first poem is called, the first poem is called And Then a Palestinian Was Born. I wrote this poem out of rage at hearing my whole life that we as a people do not exist or do not have a history. And this was written as a response, like, we've been here and we will always be here and we're beautiful. Cleansing souls to Rome's twisted roads, paved on stones thrown from Bethlehem. Death came from sin, and he was adorned. It was then that a Palestinian was born. Brown shaded and hairy, prickly as the fruit, planted at the root. I search for its name, yet bloody pulp pursues. A memory I describe to try and remember. Instead, salted earth and fog rubble my brain. Unimaginable if I had grown on the tilth of the soil, meant to toil the mulch of our germinating grains. Ground that begat us, bespoke, then be gone with us. The mud asks where I am with the patience of man, and the same sleight of hand I remember. I remember the Arabic word for patience is sabr. Sabr, the name of the fruit I'd forgotten. Sabr I can no longer expand. Sabr grows where European trees wither. Sabr is every checkpoint from West Bank to Rafah. Sabr asks me where I've gone and I don't know where to start. My parents were the ones who played in its shadow in the dark, holding hands with its stem, withstanding occupation out of scorn. It was in those moments that a Palestinian was born. When even our flag they could not bear to see and denied us the pride of a culture's dignity. When Sabr was gone, we took watermelon seeds, planted them, grew symbols, and ate them piece by piece, scooping juicy flesh beneath thin layers of green, digging out an escape for those meant to be free. Our politics a spoon carved out of stone. It is with a rock in hand that a Palestinian is born. My second poem is called Prongs into the Nation. Prongs can mean the parts that pierce, can also mean separate parts of an attack. It's never enough to simply exist as lands between folds of skin. It's funny how many talks of God and twists straight roads ahead. Should you have your rights offered up as fresh slabs behind your back? Now you are stuck. The wall built keeps you out. Desert blooming cleanses the soil through destruction. Love to launch, pillage and forage. Demand you make amends and thread the cosmos, sow the eye, build the shapes, forget to live, and through it all, walls may be built. Humans get involved and folds of a bill changes situations, spreads like virus to fit lie into truth. Write the plea to save a nation, forbidden by rule of law. A solution that sticks out prongs and stabs cement right at your neck. Between the cold metal, keeps you in. Through phosphorus gas of its indigenous hosts, above all else, humans always boast hundreds of warheads, then atone. Conjure a million miracles through a needle, the hem of freedom of our nation's dress. Live to forget, truth laid bare, only to crumble once again. It's never enough to simply exist as humans. Lands get involved between folds of skin and folds of a bill. It's funny how money changes situations. Talks of God spreads like virus and twists its straight roads ahead to fit lie into truth. Should you write the plea to save a nation? Have your rights forbidden by rule of law? Offered up as a solution that sticks out prongs and stabs cement, fresh slabs behind your back, right at your neck. Now you are stuck between the cold metal. The wall built keeps you out, keeps you in. Desert blooming through phosphorus gas cleanses the soil of its indigenous host. Through destruction above all else, humans always love to boast. Launch hundreds of warheads, pillage and forage, then demand you atone. Make amends and conjure a million miracles. Thread the cosmos through a needle, sow the eye, the hem of freedom. Build the shapes of our nation's dress. Forget to live and live to forget. Through it all, truth laid bare, walls may be built, only to crumble once again.
Hi everyone. Hi. Oh, y'all really filled in over the course of this. It is so beautiful to see you all. Thank you for coming to our party. I'm gonna read some poems and then I'm gonna talk about my feelings a little bit and then we're gonna dance. Vocabulary. Fact. The Arabic word hawa means wind. The Arabic word hawa means love. Test, multiple choice. Abd al-Halim said, "You left me holding wind in my hands." Or Abd al-Halim said, "You left me holding love in my hands." Abd al-Halim was left empty, or Abd al-Halim was left full. Fairuz said, "Oh wind, take me to my country." Or Fairuz said, "Oh love, take me to my country." Fairuz is looking for a vehicle, or Fairuz is looking for fuel. Kulthum said, "Where the wind stops her ships, we stop ours." Or Kulthum said, "Where love stops her ships, we stop ours." Kulthum is stuck, or Kulthum is home. Finally, it's 1990. Hours before, the night outside is black as my grandmother's hair. It's newborn moon in Sagittarius. And in the Maryland house, my mother is 23 behind a winning hand of cards as the water darkens the length of her skirt. December now, and friends still call her an arus, the bride, 11 months married and the shock of it not yet settled behind her eyes. Morning and the baby has not come. Milky winter sun in Sagittarius. I should mention there was a husband, 27. I can hardly imagine it, a boy that age, my father. I cannot picture him in the room, though his work for years to come will absorb him into countries that smell of blood. Maybe he is in the room now, not yet a specter. I sketch him in, but do not know where to put him. Maybe in the corner, back rigid against the white wall. I cannot imagine them ever touching. I smudge him out, correct the still wet scene. He is outside, long-limbed in a hard plastic chair. My mother called him Jack, and this is my only proof they were in love. My mother is almost my mother now, darker color of the noontime sun. In the waiting room, I should also place my grandparents, elegant in that old over-formal way of immigrants. My grandfather's shirt never without a collar, lush neatness of the afro against his head. My grandmother could pass for a film star, hair black and feathered down her back. Any suggestion of curl or coil since burnt away and set every morning in hot rollers. Her eyebrows tattooed as they have been all my life, blue-black parentheses. Both of them older than the independent state of the Sudan. My grandmother 13 years its senior. My grandfather a January child of unknown birthday, though the colonial offices recorded as 26 years before his country is born. They are placid companions, their courtship cooled amicably into a sort of siblinghood. And I have never seen them touch, so I can't imagine it now. He paces the cool length of the hallway. 1 hour and 39 minutes past noon, that final diluvian push, and I am outside, full head of wet hair, pomegranate creature cawing that little animal sound. Pronounced a girl and named for a dead great aunt, the birth certificate dated and signed in ink. Back home, I would have been known by my first two names, mine and my father's, Safia Elhillo. The surname rarely used, but in a new country, the paper demands a patronym. Anglicized, the L becomes a looser L. Hello, meaning sweet, strange, unserious allonym of that first great-grandfather. And crowded together on a single line, marked first names, our names, mine and his, Safia Elhillo. Little echo of that forgotten epithet, that once loved man, of Jack. And though I am not named for my mother, we match, Safa, noun form of my adjective, our shared first syllable, closest I have ever seen them, him and her, almost touching. How to say, after Aga Shahid Ali. In the divorce, I separate to two piles, books, English, love songs, Arabic, my angers, my schooling, my long repeating name, English, English, Arabic. I am someone's daughter, but I am American born. It shows in my short memory, my ahistoric glamour, my clumsy tongue when I forget the word for, in Arabic. I sleep, unbroken dark hours on airplanes home, and dream I've missed my connecting flight. I dream a new and fluent mouth full of gauzy swaths of Arabic. I dream my alternate selves, each with a face borrowed from photographs of the girl who became my grandmother, brows and body rounded and cursive like Arabic, but wake to the usual borderlands. I crowd shining slivers of English to my mouth. Iris, crocus, inlet, heron. How dare I love a word without knowing it in Arabic? And what even is translation? Is immigration without irony? Safia means pure. All my life it's been true, even in my clouded Arabic. Second quarantine without the Hem Hafiz. The lyrics do not translate. Arabic is all verbs for what stays still in other languages. Fasbah, to mourning, what the translation to awake cannot honor, cannot contain its rhyme with tasbah, to swim. to make the night a body of water. I am here now, and I am not buoyant. I am 32 and always sick, small for my age and always translating. I cannot sleep through the night. No language has given me the rhyme between ocean and wound that I know to be true. Sometimes, when the doctors draw my blood, I feel the word at the edge of my tongue. Halim sings aghraq, aghraq. I am drowning, I am drowning. The single word for all the water in his throat does not translate. Halim sings, teach me to kill the tear in its duct. Halim sings, I have no experience in love, nor have I a boat, and I know he cannot rest, cannot swim through the night. I am looking for a voice with a wound in it, a man who could only have died by a form of drowning. Let the song take its time. Let the ocean close back up. The Cairo Apartments. The Cairo Apartments. The cousins as barefoot children floating out of polished rooms. Together we clattered between floors in each other's jalabiyas, spectacular games of hide and seek, 3 floors and a roof to search. I can't remember if we made the songs up ourselves. Where is the bride's house? Ali Alloy prayed his prayers, boarded the boat, worked his labors. The specter of our adults in the mornings and nights, their strained and hushed voices. Our grandmothers were beautiful and suited to exile. Enormous coifs of blackened hair, silk scarves only for driving, the eyeliner tattooed, eternal livid stain on the rim of each eyelid, bare faces forgotten in childhood. Our mothers were less glamorous and always tired, always at work, wore blue jeans, cool hands that carried us to our beds at night. I loved exile and the close quarters it afforded us. I loved it enough to stay gone when all the others went home, moved on, unlatched their shuttered houses, beat the carpets and kissed their neighbors and cried. The apartments were emptied. I returned to Cairo years later and looked for our child ghosts, kicking a ball in the corridors between unfinished buildings. The time Al-Mustafa tripped and opened the skin of his palm on a fallen brick. How I wouldn't look up from my book to see what he was trying to show me. How he wrapped the bloodied hand in a dish towel and pressed down until our mother came home. I cannot find us. I more closely resemble now the young parents that corralled us, creased and shot through with sadness. There will be no children of my own to carry to their waiting beds, and the city that belonged to me has gone, was never mine. I dreamt it, I wrote it down, invented it, made all of it up, everything but the smell of corn roasting sweetly on the street below, the carved wooden shutters, motes of dust arcing through the light, a workbook splayed before me, strained cursive in the feminine conjugation. Why I didn't look up. He didn't say he was bleeding. The shopkeeper remarks that I look very clean for a Sudanese. Ya Samar ya Samara, Ya Asmar ya Asmarani, Upper Nile, silt color. Who taught you to speak Arabic like that? I don't know where the cousins have gone. I don't know what countries we've settled for. I imagine everyone back home, that they might have been playing for hours without me. My brother, still with the faint stripe of a scar down his palm, remembers the stitches were done without anesthesia, the doctor telling jokes to distract him. That's a true story. And then for my last poem, Ode to Sudanese Americans. Basma and Rudy were first, each holding a mirror in her arms, where I could see my face as their faces. And we pierced our noses and wore the merboba in our ears, and everyone at the party thought them hoop earrings. And in the New York years, I crowd smoky bars alongside Ladin and Shadin and Majid and Linda and Nidal, Athil and Amir and Al-Khair, and Mo and Muhammad and Mo. And we're forever removing our, thank you for doing that joke. And we're forever removing our shoes in each other's apartments, ashing cigarettes into the incense burner, making tea with the good dried mint our mothers taught us to keep in the freezer, next to the chili powder from home, making songs and dinner and jokes in our parents' accents. And I am funniest when I have 2 languages to cocktail, when I can say, remember, and everyone was there. The rented room at the middle school on Sundays, where our parents volunteered to teach us Arabic. to watch us bleat alif, ba, da, and text our American boyfriends that we were bored. And at restaurants, everyone asks if we are related, and we say yes. We do not date because we are probably cousins. We throw rent parties and project the video where Al-Balabir sing Gitar al-Shog, and I am not the only one crying, not the only one made and remade by longing. The mutation that Arabic makes of my English, metallic noises the English makes in my Arabic. We ululate at each other's weddings, we ululate at the club, and Sajid and Hanat make the murah vegan. And in English, Safia spells her name like mine, but pronounces it like purified, sews a patch of Romaissaa to the back of my denim jacket. We wash our underwear in the sink and make group texts on WhatsApp. We go home and take pictures of the pyramids. We go home and take pictures of the Nile. We move to other cities and feel doubly diasporic. And your cousin's co-worker's little sister emails me a list of bigalas in Oakland, brings me crates of canned fava beans from her own parents' basement. And I say Sudanese American and mean also British Sudanese, and Canadian and Australian and raised in the Gulf, Azza and Yusra and Amani and Yasmin. And it's true that my people are everywhere. The uncles driving taxis at the end of our nights, the pharmacist who fills my prescription, who is named for the mole denoting beauty adorning her left cheek, guardian spirits of my every hookah bar, of my every untagged photograph, of crop tops and short shorts and pierced cartilage and tattoos, of henna and headscarves and undercuts and shaved heads, my tapestries, embroidered with hundreds of little mirrors, glinting like sequins in the changing light. So real quick, before we go dance, I want to talk to you about the reason that has gathered us here today, which is the Mizna Black SWANA Takeover issue, which are just the most delicious words to say. I am so beyond language in my feelings about this and the enormousness of this moment in my life and this moment of community and solidarity and gathering. And I think there's this incorrect myth that poets are like hermits writing poems like up in their little Emily Dickinson tower. But like the only reason I want to be a poet or care about being a poet is to get to be a poet around other people. And there's just something like so sacred about being in a room with the people that the poems are for, and that the poems are because of. Also, like my favorite prompt, my favorite genre, my favorite form is Black people gathering. So this is it. This is all I care about. This is all I want to do. And to just be in this very, very specific intersection together, and to be in this very, very specific gathering together. I'm sad for the version of myself that lived before this moment where I thought I was by myself, you know? And it's not that I actually thought I was by myself, it's just that every time I was in a room where I was gathered with people over some idea of like shared cultural materials or linguistic materials, I would look up and would be the only Black person or one of but a few Black people. And I think a lot of the SWANA spaces that I moved in before this, I never really heard any conversations around race happening in those spaces. And it made me feel like I was tripping. Where I was like, this is like, I get it, we're all gathered, do salam alaikum, fayruz and kalthum. Like, I'm Black also. Like, who are we gonna, is anyone gonna, I feel like there's something to be said there, but I feel like a lot of the times the only times my Blackness felt acknowledged would be in making me aware of like my otherness in those particular spaces, or my like not quiteness in those spaces, or my almostness in those spaces. So to be with like for real, exactly my people, I never want to go back to doing anything else, you know? I'm so proud of this issue. It's really beautiful. There's like a foldout you should look at. But I also like cannot emphasize enough
that this is a drop in the bucket. This is not, I'm really not interested in any conversations around being like first or only or whatever. I think that's boring and racist. But I want this to be our small offering, our tiny offering in the face of the enormous things that are possible when we gather. And I'm so excited for us to continue to gather forever and ever and ever and make more stuff and, you know, write more poems and make more foldouts and take more photos and make more films. And so I hope you'll enjoy the issue. I love it so much. I'm so proud of the team that we put together and the issue itself, but also the relationships that formed in that. I'm so lucky to have just gotten to hang out with these brilliant, talented, incredible people for the better part of 2 years now. It's actually been almost 3 because it was 2020 when Len and Ruba first got on Zoom with me and talked about this. So this is 3 years of my life and 3 years of so many of our lives now kind of culminate. I can't believe the issue is out. I can't believe we've launched it. But so 3 years later, yeah, I hope you'll love it, and I hope you'll be proud of us, and I hope that there will be so much more to come that y'all will be like, remember that one issue of Mizna? You know, so I'm really excited for this and also for what's next. Thank you for coming to our project.